The M tag. M is for many things, magical. M is for maps. I love maps. M is for Mars. M is for Mole, one of the places I used to live. It's a map of France and the Mediterranean. Hello, my name is Jim. Welcome to my Booktube channel about books and reading and stuff. In this video I'll be looking at the M tag. M marks the halfway point in the alphabet. This is the 13th letter of the alphabet. Lots of things begin with M. M is for Manchester. In the L tag here we looked at London. Do you have a favourite book set in Manchester? For me this would be Mary Barton. Mary Barton by Elizabeth Gaskell. Mary Barton was the daughter of John Barton, who worked in the mills in Manchester in the 1840s. This was a troubled time. A lot of mills were closing, a lot of people unemployed and struggling to make ends meet. This is also a very early murder mystery. The scion of the mill owner is murdered and there's a mystery as to who murdered him. The suspects include Mary Barton's beau and also Mary Barton's father. I realise Manchester isn't as popular as London for the setting of many novels, and there are many other cities beginning with M. In Europe, a lot of the best footballing teams at the moment are from cities beginning with M, like Manchester, but also Munich, Milan, Madrid, Marseille. And we have many other cities beginning with M: Moscow, Montreal, Minneapolis, St. Paul, hi Rowan, Miami, Medellin, Montevideo, Mogadishu, Mombasa, Melbourne, hi Scott and Nell. Lots of cities begin with M, so for this prompt you can tell me about any book you have set in a city beginning with M. M is for murder mystery. Talking of murder mysteries, is there a better murder mystery than Agatha Christie's book And Then There Were None? This is a book published in 1939. Agatha Christie said it was her most difficult book to write. And Then There Were None is a locked room mystery. 10 people are invited to an island in Devon, and slowly they're bumped off one by one. There's no detective, there's no Hercule Poirot, no Miss Marple, and this is widely considered as Agatha Christie's greatest mystery. Do you know a greater murder mystery than this? Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below, but I think William Shakespeare is the only person who comes close to Agatha Christie in terms of best-selling author. M is for Magic Realism. I've read lots of books in the genre of Magic Realism. Murakami, Wind-Up Bird Chronicle, Toni Morrison, Beloved. These authors also begin with M, their surnames. Magic Realism is a realistic story with magic elements. It's different to fantasy. Fantasy is completely apart from our realistic world. Examples of Magic Realism would be a lot of Gabriel Garcia Marquez's books, like 100 Years of Solitude, The Life of Pi by Yann Martel. Magic Realism blurs the lines between fantasy and reality. What was the first book you read that was Magic Realism? For me this would be Eva Luna by Isabel Allende. This is set in an unnamed South American country, and Eva is a poor girl who's orphaned at a young age. She uses her wits and her storytelling ability to survive, and she meets a fascinating motley crew of different characters. There's a street urchin who becomes a thief. There's a transvestite who teaches her about etiquette. There's a Lebanese migrant with a hair lip who acts as a father figure for her. There's all sorts of strange characters. M is for map. Do you have a favourite map? I think this would be my favourite map. This is an IGN map of France Grande Randonnée. These are the long walks in France. It has maps for all these long walks marked all over France. This is Corsica. I lived in Corsica for 6 months. Beautiful island. And here it's got the GR20 marked on. The GR20 is one of the most difficult walks in France. It goes from the sea to the mountain and back to the sea again. I just love looking at maps. I'm a bit of a geography nerd, as people like Kit will tell you. I take issue with Bill Bryson's notes from a small island, because Britain, Great Britain, is not a small island. It's one of the top 10 biggest islands in the world, and it's certainly the biggest island in Europe. And I know of only one person that's actually walked around the whole perimeter of Great Britain. As a country, Britain is small compared to America or Canada or Russia, but as an island, it's a big island. MISSISSIPPI. M is for Mississippi, the great river dividing the west and the east of the United States. What's your favourite book set on the Mississippi? For many, I'm sure it'd be Huckleberry Finn, a very famous book. But for me, I would choose Fever Dream by George R.R. Martin. Martin, another M. This is a book about some vampires who own a steamship company in the 19th century, and they're going up and down the Mississippi and its tributaries, picking up passengers and sometimes tasting of their blood. M is for Mecca and Medina and Muhammad and mosque and Muslim. A lot of Muslim words with an M. What's the last book you read with a Muslim protagonist? I looked at the list on Goodreads of Muslim protagonists in books, and of the 50 books that they had, I'd only read one, The Kite Runner. There's some that look quite interesting, like The Catman of Aleppo, about a man in the Syrian city of Aleppo who looks after cats, where most of the people flee from Aleppo because of the fighting. The last book I read with a Muslim protagonist was a memoir, also an M. This was Little Brother, or in the Spanish title Minyan, by Ibrahima Balde. Ibrahima Balde recounted his memoir, his story, to the Basque poet Ametz Azalus Antia. And it's the story of Ibrahima, who was from Guinea. He was a young man of about 20 who crosses the Sahara Desert in the search of his little brother. His little brother had gone to try to find a passage to Europe. A lot of sub-Saharan Africans try to cross the Mediterranean in very small boats called zodiacs, very unseaworthy boats called zodiacs. They're trafficked. And Ibrahima, on his odyssey, he met with a lot of violence. He also met with kindness and friendship. It was a very mixed odyssey. He was imprisoned. At one time he was enslaved in a chicken farm. He often had to work mixing cement to get money for the next stage of his journey. It was a fascinating read about one migrant story. M is for Mars. This is a little Hot Wheels model of the Mars Curiosity rover. What's your favourite book set on Mars or about Martians? There's a few. Andy Weir's The Martian, H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds, The Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury. I think my favourite would be Stranger in a Strange Land by Robert Heinlein. This was published in 1961 when the first man went into space. Yuri Gagarin. We have a Yuri Gagarin Square in Tbilisi. Stranger in a Strange Land is about a man who is born on Mars and is raised by Martians and is taken to Earth, and what happens there. It's a fascinating story. It's one of the classics of the golden age of science fiction. M is for must read. Is there a book you feel you must read. I've heard so many people on Booktube talk about Beloved by Toni Morrison that when I saw it in the local bookshop, Prospero's, in the centre of Tbilisi, I had to get this. This is one of the only books I bought at full price this year. This was 38 Lari, which is about $12 or $13. M is for Margaret Atwood, also Margaret Pinard, who I'll talk about later. But what is your favourite book by Margaret Atwood? She's famous for writing The Handmaid's Tale and Blind Assassin, but I think my favourite would be Cat's Eye. Cat's Eye is the story of Elaine Risley, an artist who returns to the city of her youth, Toronto, for a retrospective of her art. I like Cat's Eye because it dwells on the emotion of nostalgia, seeing things from our past. And for me, I get my nostalgia buzz from the Matchbox cars. I have several Matchbox cars, and my collection really took off around 2011, which is the year my father died. I think there must be some coincidence. This is a Matchbox Mercury Cougar, a rat rod. I remember when I was 7 or 8 at school, my friend Carl brought this, a model just like this. These were manufactured in big numbers to school, and I was amazed by it. This was the time Matchbox were feeling the competition from Hot Wheels, and this was a car with a blown engine, the bright coloured paint and the decals and the super fast wheels to try to compete with Hot Wheels. Before this time, Matchbox had been more realistic cars with regular wheels and less spectacular paint jobs. They were Matchbox cars originally because the owner, Jack Odell, his daughter, was allowed to take a toy to school, but the stipulation was the toy had to be able to fit inside a Matchbox, which is where the idea of having these cars about the same size that fitted in a sort of Matchbox sort of box, very small. Yes, M is for Margaret Pinard. Have you read any of her books? I've read the 3 books in the Remnant series. These were The Keening, The Grasping Root, and Storm, Rack and Spindrift. These are historical fiction set in the 19th century. It's about a Scottish family who moved to Nova Scotia and their struggles first in Scotland and then in Nova Scotia. And in the 3rd book, one of the family goes back to Scotland, and it's an interesting read. The characters are very well drawn. I really loved the first one, particularly The Keening, and I'd recommend these to anyone. Who do I tag? Well, I'll tag Margaret Pinard. Also Mark Nash, I've read one of his books, 28 Far Cries, and I enjoyed that too. That was a collection of flash fiction. The other people I'm tagging, I don't know if they're authors or not. There's MH Books, Michael K. Vaughan, Marilyn Maya Mendoza, or I know she writes memoirs, Just Martine, and misreads a lot. So, that was my M tag. If you like this video, you can like and subscribe below, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye bye.